Welcome to Handmade Happenings. I'm Marissa, and today is the start of a dollhouse makeover, remodel, rebuild, a little bit of all of the above. Okay, so what I'm doing here is combining hopefully two doll rooms. So the first is this front porch, and I made this probably 3 years ago or so. And it's already been made over once, actually, because it used to be longer. It used to have a window on either side of the door. And then I ran out of room. It got moved around, and where I ended up with it at just didn't have the room to have that full window. So it's already been cut down once. And this time around, what I want to do is basically remake this. This probably will not get reused much at all, but what I want to do is make it so that it has a working door, and then it's just going to open up into a room that's going to be behind this. The dollhouse that's back here is going to get moved. So this is the second room that I'm making over. I didn't actually make this one, a friend made it, and I guess technically it's kind of already had a small makeover. She had it when she gave it to me with a bed in here, and I put the bed in a different room and put different furniture in it so that it's more of a study. And I do really like this room. I mean, it's hard not to. We've got a tapestry over here, a wood stove that actually lights up. And the part that I really like is the secret compartment, which I turned into a weapons vault. So I do really like this room. As I said, it's hard not to with all of the features that are in it. The issue is it's really big. I mean, it doesn't even, because of the tower, fit into the frame very well. When I asked my friend what her inspiration was for making this room, I think her exact words was, "I wanted to make something big," and she succeeded. So for my redesign, basically I'm going to use some of the material from this to make the front porch and the room behind the front porch, which will have the tapestry in it. And then I'm going to do a part 2, which will be remaking a study with the wood stove and a secret compartment somehow incorporated into it. And that's going to actually go in a different room, and then I'm going to put my dining room furniture in the room behind the front porch. At least that's my plan at this moment. The first thing I did was take apart the original room box that my friend gave me. And this was for a few reasons. Mainly, I wanted to use the floor and just to see what I could and couldn't use out of that room. I decided though to start with the walls from scratch because it just seemed easier, more consistent thickness, and the foam board that I use is from Dollar Tree, and the height of these walls was the exact same measurement as the narrow side, so I only had to cut the length of the walls. So it just made it easier. So that's what I started out with on the actual making of, was cutting the walls. The front porch is 17¼ inches wide, mainly because that was as narrow as I could get it and still fit a door and the porch swing on it. And it was at this point, with my craft space in complete disarray, that I began to have second thoughts. However, I had already taken the doll room apart, so I really couldn't go back. So I forged ahead with cutting out the porch. So I cut the porch floor out of the floor from the original doll room, and this was a bit of a challenge because, of course, popsicle sticks and hot glue, neither one are easy to cut through. So this did take a good amount of patience and time, but eventually it did work out. At this point, I then cut the height of the porch, like the pieces that raise the porch. And so 2 side pieces, 1 long piece for the front and 1 shorter piece also for the front, because you need a piece on either side of the steps. And then cut out the step risers. And these kind of look, I usually think of it in squares, but I guess it's technically more like very narrow rectangles. So you start by measuring 4 inches tall and 1 inch wide. Mark that. Then move the ruler over 1 inch and down 1 inch so that it's 2 inches tall. 3 inches tall. Mark that. And then over and down 1 inch at 2 inches tall, mark that, and then over and down again for 1 inch. And that creates the shape for the sides of the steps. You can cut 2 of those out and then cut 1 inch strips of foam board to glue in between those, and that creates the base of your steps. With the porch pieces all cut out, I could now determine how tall that was going to be, and I marked the height of the porch onto the wall. And then I also marked out where the trim for the door was going to be and cut out the hole for the door. And this was because all of those areas did not need brick, and that was the next part, was covering the wall and all the other pieces with brick. Now, I would have used brick scrapbook paper had I been able to find a scrapbook paper that I liked. Unfortunately, all of the ones I could find, they were either too big and the wrong color. So I decided to do my own brick using egg cartons. I cut egg carton lids into small rectangles and glued them to all of the pieces. And then I had to paint them because, of course, the egg cartons had blue letters on the inside, and I hadn't painted the foam board. If the foam board had been painted and the letters hadn't been there, I probably would have left it, because honestly, the coloring was pretty good otherwise. But I had to paint it, so I started by mixing up white and black craft paint to make a light gray, and that was my base coat. I then added black to the remaining paint to make a darker gray, which went in between all of the bricks, and then used some whites and browns and I think even some blacks just to selectively dry brush some of the bricks to add more color and variation in it, and I just kept going until I was happy with how it looked. After all of the paint was dry, I did notice some warping in the boards, and I think this started with the glue, finished off, got worse with the paint. And so for the front porch pieces, I just bent it back into shape and it held once that was done. It caused wrinkles on the other side, but that didn't really matter because this was all going to get glued together and hidden. You weren't going to see that side. For the wall, it was going to be a lot more visible, but I wasn't as concerned about that because when I painted the other side brown, it helped flatten it out most of the way, and then to flatten it out the rest of the way, I just set it overnight with some weights on it to help get it flat again. Going back to the porch, I just, at this point, had to assemble it, and it's basically just a rectangle, so it's just glue each piece working around. I usually go like in the same direction till I come all the way back around to the other side, gluing all of them together, steps in between, glued the floor on top, and then for the steps, the actual like part that you step on, I actually used the pieces from my original front porch because they were actually the right size, and the color of that scrapbook paper matched the floors pretty well. Now onto the door, and this was the big part of this. I wanted a working door. I have made working doors in the past, but I find that if they work, they don't look as good when I try to make them, or if they look good, they either don't work at all or they only kind of work. So I wanted both and decided that the easiest and best way to do that was just to order one off Etsy. This is a wood door from the shop Laser Lines. I'll leave the link in the description. This is the same shop that made the wood doll rooms that I have that stack, and the doors are meant to work with those rooms. I painted the outside of the door brown and the inside white, and that was because brown I felt like was going to look the best on the outside, but the inside walls are brown, so it just didn't seem like it was going to look right to have brown walls and a brown door. And then I painted the trim and the handles black. Once the door was painted, I glued it to the wall along with the trim, and I used craft paint for this because I thought that it would be stronger as well as it would give me more time to get everything positioned right before the glue dried, whereas hot glue, just you have to be able to move fast with that. After the door was glued on, I then glued the front porch to the wall. And then I glued the handles on last. And I did it that way because that just allowed for the wall to lay flat on my table while gluing the porch on. And now we have the front porch with the working door. I am splitting this video into 2 parts, so the inside will be in a video coming out in a couple of weeks. Thank you for watching. I hope you will join me for part 2. If it is already up, then it will be on screen right now, and I will see you next time.